The Holy Gospel according to Luke.
Glory to you, O Lord.
Now, on that same day, 2 disciples were going to a village called Emmaus, about 7 miles from Jerusalem, and talking with each other about all these things that had happened. While they were talking and discussing, Jesus himself came near and went with them. But their eyes were kept from recognizing him. And he said to them, "What are you discussing with each other while you walk along?" They stood still, looking sad. Then one of them, whose name was Cleopas, answered him, "Are you the only stranger in Jerusalem who does not know the things that have taken place there in these days?" He asked them, "What things?" They replied, "The things about Jesus of Nazareth, who was a prophet, mighty in deed and word before God and all the people, and how our chief priests and leaders handed him over to be condemned to death and crucified him. But we had hoped that he was the one to redeem Israel. Yes, and besides all this, it is now the 3rd day since these things took place. Moreover, some women of our group astounded us. They were at the tomb early this morning, and when they did not find his body there, they came back and told us that they had indeed seen a vision of angels who said that he was alive. Some of those who were with us went to the tomb and found it just as the women had said, but they did not see him." Then he said to them, "Oh, how foolish you are, and how slow of heart to believe all that the prophets have declared. Was it not necessary that the Messiah should suffer these things and then enter into his glory?" Then, beginning with Moses and all the prophets, he interpreted to them the things about himself in all the scriptures. As they came near the village to which they were going, he walked ahead as if he were going on. But they urged him strongly, saying, "Stay with us, because it is almost evening, and the day is now nearly over." So he went in to stay with them. When he was at the table with them, he took bread, blessed it, and broke it, and gave it to them. Then their eyes were opened, and they recognized him, and he vanished from their sight. They said to each other, "Were not our hearts burning within us while he was talking to us on the road, while he was opening the scriptures to us?" That same hour they got up and returned to Jerusalem, and they found the 11 and their companions gathered together. They were saying, "The Lord has risen indeed, and he has appeared to Simon." Then they told what had happened on the road and how he had been made known to them in the breaking of the bread. The Gospel of the Lord. Praise to you, O Christ. I invite you to be seated, and because we have lots of visitors, some of whom are smaller, I do want you to know, there's already a few back there. We have some books and some coloring back on the little table. And anyone is welcome to go there and use that if that's a better way for you to spend your sermon time. There's an old poem called "Footprints in the Sand." It is something that gives comfort to many people. It describes a person who's having a dream of walking along the beach with Jesus. Scenes from the person's life flash past. Memories of times that were happy and some that were not. After the image ends, the person looks back over the sandy beach and considers the trail of footprints left in the sand. She's puzzled when she notices that much of the time there were 2 sets of footprints, but sometimes there was only 1 set. She can't understand why Jesus would have left her, since he had promised to be with her always. She also noticed that the single set of footprints corresponded to the times when she was having especial great struggles in life. No wonder she struggled if Jesus had left her side. But in the poem, Jesus is quick to clarify. I'm picturing his tone of voice as very much like the one he probably used in our reading from Luke today, speaking to those two disciples he's been walking with. "Oh, how foolish you are." It's the kindly tone we might use to say, "Don't be silly," when a loved one is mistaken about our intentions. And just in that way, in the poem, Jesus explains to the distraught woman that the reason she sees only one set of footprints when times were tough is that those were the times he had picked her up and carried her. That is such a comforting thought. We know what it feels like to walk through places of despair. We know what it feels like when what we had hoped our life would look like gets further and further from our reality. Those are the times that we most want to know that Jesus is walking beside us. But there is more to it than just Jesus walking beside us. If we think a little bit more about what happens on that Emmaus road, we can see that Jesus does so much more than just show up. The friends are walking and talking in their sadness because Jesus, their friend, has died. And he joins them. What are you discussing? Cleopas thinks it should be obvious. Everybody knows what's been happening. But Jesus doesn't let them off easy. What things? He asks. Now, remember that Jesus is doing the asking, and the things that they are talking about are things that happened to him. So he knows. He knows. But even now, after his crucifixion and resurrection, he is still the teacher. He is still guiding people to know how to live in his life and his light. And that question, what things, leads them to describe what has happened, to dwell with it, to name the hurt. And in naming that hurt, they give their pain to Jesus. That is when he takes over. Not just showing up, but also being with us, guiding us through the pain, teaching us that there is a place beyond to which we can go, moving from "we had hoped" to "Christ is risen." But how does this work in our lives? How do we get from Jesus meeting two disciples on the road to Emmaus, guiding them through their place of darkness, to finding Jesus alongside us in our place of deep hurt, guiding us out of it? Now, as we learned from this reading from Luke, there are places where Jesus meets us in the ordinary things of everyday life. But we also meet Jesus here in this place. We meet Jesus here at the table. And as I explained to the young ones, that candle is lit, so we remember that we are meeting Jesus here. Our first reading from Acts talked about a day in the early church when many, many people were baptized, 3,000 people at once. We had so much chaos with just one. I can't even imagine 3,000. But what a great and wonderful thing. And it says, the promise is for you, for your children, for all who are far away, for everyone whom the Lord our God calls to him. All can receive that gift of baptism. We spoke God's words to Penelope and her family, and to all of us. Those words that promise that Jesus will be there. The words and the water are the guarantee. And then later, we'll come here where we have words with bread and wine, where Jesus is also present at his table. The same meal that Jesus shared with the friends on the road. The same meal where he broke the bread and suddenly they recognized him. We break our bread and drink our wine and know that Jesus is present. I love this story. It is one of my favorites, and I think it's because it shows us that we can find Jesus when we're doing these everyday things, walking along the road, eating a meal, being washed. We meet Jesus in all these places. So whether you are thinking about the poem, Footprints in the Sand, or whether you're here breaking the bread or having a cross put on your forehead, remember that Jesus is with you. What things, he asked, what things are troubling you? What things do you need to speak to God in your heart or aloud? And then listen. Listen, Penelope Louise Gady, Jesus is here. Jesus doesn't make our problems go away, but Jesus is with us and is eager to carry us through our places of hurt into his place of light and life. Amen.